tumalize tena tukae chini sasa. Madam, you are ready when you are ready? Engineers power. Power. Engineers power. Power. Butichi power. Power. Butichi power. Power. Engineers Engineers Butichi Butichi
Thank you. Thank you. Asa tukae huko. The address, I'll be addressing you. Yeah. Ni sawa, watu wawili watatu. Nisusu. Ama wachiji watu wabiti. Ready, yeah. Right man, woman. Usijirini. Yeah. Wanda zetu wele. Warai tiye la wala mutibi. Tiye la wala mutibi. Members of the press, engineers present. Today, we've assembled here today to mark the beginning of my campaign, which will be running for the next 2 weeks. And for those who don't know me, my name is Engineer Butichi, Khamisi, a career civil engineer for the last 20 years. Now, fellows, corporates, associates, and graduates, allow me to sincerely thank Engineer Jefferson Omolo and Engineer Abdurrahman Guyo for nominating me to run for the office of First Vice President, and if successful, to serve for the period 2024 to 2026. And I graciously accept the nomination of my candidacy. I would want to thank the team of scrutineers for rising above the speculation that surrounded my candidature. There were many theories about whether I would be cleared to run or not to run. And today marks a major milestone in the books of history for fairness and to be seen to be done at the top plaza and the little freedoms we've so far gained as a union. I dare say my candidature was the most unlikely for this position, going by history that befell those who dared critique or took actions that seemed rattling the powers at Top Plaza. Despite these little wins, I urge members to remain awake and not to blink an eye for a second. Above all, I would like to thank members who, in spite of fear of unknown, remained awake and vigilant during the nomination period. Your speculative opinions, daily comments, sustained pressure I would like also to thank the team, I dare say, just a minute. Above all, I would like to thank members who, in spite of fear of unknown, remained awake and vigilant during the whole period of nominations. Your speculative opinions, daily comments, and sustained pressure made the high tower to lower its neck. I have been keenly following the online discussions, and I'm grateful that we are continuously holding those who are vying to account for their actions or inactions in the past. Continue with the spirit until the center can no longer hold. I would like to congratulate all other members nominated to vie for various positions. It is a demonstration that members are willing to serve and transform our union. In this election, it is a break or make election. I would like to urge members for which to vote. to exercise their democratic rights to vote in this election. And those who cannot vote, which is unfortunate as a union, to use their persuasion over those who have ballot rights. It is our union, and the decisions made by a majority few will in future affect the silent majority. We therefore raise together, or we will fall together. It is important at this time in point for Top Plaza to accord its members a fair platform for freedom of speech, for freedom of expression, for freedom to demand accountability and transparency. And make more gains in advancing our members' welfare towards a brighter future for our children and children's children. It is not lost on us that some of us have fallen victims in the past to unjust decisions at Top Plaza. Some have lost their fundamental rights to vote or to be voted for. Some have had to deal with extended arm-twisting tactics of our leadership, and at their workplaces, some have lost jobs or business opportunities, and some have been prosecuted for having a contrary opinion from that of our leadership. We are saying that these archaic tactics can no longer be applied to the modern-day members of our institution. We refuse to have our backs bent too low to such tactics for fear of unknown consequences. At this very right moment, and we shall not look back. We will forever move forward, and members should not give up their rights for fair and just system. For those who have been asking me questions, what can I do for the institution? Why should I convince them to vote for me as the first vice president for the institution? I would want to pause at this point and say, there's nothing to do, but there's everything to undo in our institution. For the first, I'm not going to be an employee of the union, but rather I'm going to be a strategic leader. With an innovative secretariat, fundamentally, we will provide leadership and play extra politics, external politics, to protect and advance engineers' welfare. Nevertheless, fundamental to my heart, first of all, we ought to deal with the fundamentals within our institution. There is rectify. For now, we have to agitate for new constitutional amendments to address the ever-challenging situations we find ourselves in as a fraternity. For years now, our fathers have had to cope with issues they could not solve. Demand and survival dictate that we must grapple with the issues and attempt to solve the wrongs. To remove the excessive high-handedness power from the leadership and hand it back to its members. History has taught us that for any nation of people striving to succeed in advancing its social and economic welfare, then the minimum guaranteed tool is expanded democratic space in our ranks. The maladjusted constitution no longer serves the current situations or aspirations of the modern engineers. By the mere fact that some of us subscribe but cannot vote or be voted for due to restrictive constitution is an error in itself. This must be corrected, and as it goes by that any taxation obligation must therefore be accompanied by the voting rights. Ours is not a regulator, ours is a welfare, and therefore any member who subscribes must belong. Details to the level of electability can be amicably discussed and agreed upon by our members during the Constitution Amendment. This issue is a reality when our daughters and sons will be joining the noble fraternity. We cannot afford to keep them at the waiting bay for that long. And this systemic exclusion of the younger generation has made of those young generation ones has developed inferiority complex in defending and agitating their turf in front of other professions. The exclusion has had a permanent psychological damage on us, which has made the other professions push us beyond our bedrooms. We therefore must engage at the earliest opportunity the younger generations. This group of members sits on a lonely island of lack of jobs opportunities, disproportionate to pay, poor workplace conditions, and many other challenges that makes it a more vulnerable group. And wherever they are now, they must hold on hope. I know there has been agitation by this group of members plus other categories of members to form other unions due to frustration by the top plaza. I want to say to them, hold on there. We shall overcome. We cannot afford to further have a subdivision. We are already segmented, with formation of splinter groups agitating for various causes. Only at IK shall we collectively be bound by our core values as one. We must work through the courts, the legislation, through the vote, and through the vote. This is what we have been talking about in the past few months. The election is the most significant step that the good standing members can take at this moment to save the union from a further disintegration. And another major constitutional amendment should be in the governance structure of our leadership. For a very long time, members have complained of electing leaders, but the exercising of power has been offshore. Every 2 years, we elect a leadership that is not accountable to its members, but rather to some offshore minority, but yet very powerful clique. This has been enabled by some actors who, through legal and illegal means, have refused to exit the stage. And as such, they continue to perpetuate yesteryear's tactics on today's year's members. The forum legally exists in the IK structure, but the mandate is illegal, unconstitutional, and unjustified. Ours is likable to a country where the former presidents occupy State House for the entire period of the new president. The question is, what is the complex that the new president cannot make of? What interests are former presidents guarding? Is the new president so clueless that he or she needs a tour guide for the entire term? Is any elected president likely to change this state of sorry affairs with the future hope of being a member of the offshore committee? How far does the constitutional power and influence of this offshore group run in the engineering corporate world? These are the questions that members need to answer as we go into the election. I propose we maintain the group outside the Constitution. It should exist like any other category of members, and the criteria to be expanded to include our senior citizen engineers who have served our fraternity with distinction, fairness, and biasness. Members in certain age limit shall be admitted to the category by voting. You must have served engineers' welfare with a fair eye in your capacity as a leader in the industry. This will encourage accountability and fairness in our industry leaders. Again and again, we as a fraternity cannot continue to isolate ourselves in some island. We must start having proactive engagement with government. Governments all over the world are moving targets, and we must strategically and even rebound strategically to be able to lobby government to maintain traditionally engineers' ring-fenced industry leadership to engineers. As a business, lobbyists understand the business industry contenders and their qualifications, we shall maintain a bird's eye on all engineers to ring-fence opportunities and advance our interests in good time. It shall not be a wait-and-see process. Every year, our institution nominates our members to various employers. And these, they need to represent us as a fraternity. As I come to my conclusion, I would like to assure members that I'll be a gatekeeper's role. I'll not take collective responsibility for what is not appealing to members. I would like, therefore, members to personally hold me accountable on the excesses that the council might commit if at that point I would not have talked about them and try stopping them. I will be standing tall behind the president, shoulder, and council at large to ensure that what is right and what is wrong is wrong. I'll be available at any time in the trenches and also in the boardrooms alike when members want my service. Top on mind of the Constitution to foster openness, fairness, justice, and accountability, and to ensure that there's freedom of speech, there's freedom for critical thinking towards our internal governance, and improve our democratic space. IK is not a regulator, as I've said above. IK is a welfare union and a political tool for advancement of engineers' interests. I humbly ask for your vote to be your guard in this institution. A vote for me is a vote for silent majority and transformative. Together, let us build our union. Together, let us re-engineer our union. Together, let us bring back the confidence, the pride, and the prestige of our union. Finally, let us arm our union to be able to compete with other cousin unions. In the coming days, we shall visit members and have these conversations in our corridors, in our working spaces, and in our social spaces. God bless every member, and God bless IK.
Maybe just a minute.
Yes.
We have had quack doctors, I'm sorry, so we have had people who have taken advantage of professions. Like, if you pay that office, what are you going to do with this, the quack engineers? I'm sorry to call them so.
Is a problem that the issue of what you're talking about, quack engineers, is a problem that is across all industries in Kenya. Be it doctor in medicine, be it in law, be it in engineering. It's only that maybe the other professions have not been able to flush them out. But normally we have a regulator which is called Engineers Board of Kenya, where all engineers are registered there. So what we'll do that in the coming years, every engineer if a citizen wants any service from an engineer, then that engineer, you would have to ask that engineer to give you his or her registration number. Then that way, you'll be able to know whether he's a genuine engineer or is not a genuine engineer. So only registration will sort out the mess.
And if you are might be elected,
Yes.
what difference are you going to bring to that professional? Because you have been blamed for several times, especially on issue of the building collapsing, on those issues. This professional has been blamed for many years. If you're elected, what difference are you going to bring?
For the longest time, we've been agitating for separation of roles in buildings. Because you find in a building, we have almost 10 professionals. We have the architect, we have the engineer, we have the QS, we have electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, and all these have been always working under an architect. For the public information is that if a building fails in terms of structural, if it collapses, then that blame squarely falls on a structural engineer. So in the new code, which we've already, it has already been published, each profession within the industry will be given space So that, because most of the time we've always been working under the architect, for example, in a structure. And the fee charged on the client, the architect goes with the lion's share. These will eventually boil down to the people who are involved in the profession. Because if your fee is not adequate enough, then you can't make adequate visits to the site. But in the new code is that every profession within the building industry will come in as a group, but each profession will have his or her equal share of payment from the client. That's what has been happening.
Are you calling for any policy changing then? Are you calling for any policy changing?
Already, there's a policy. It was just published like 2 days ago in Parliament. It was being enacted as an act of Parliament. It has gone through the Parliament. I think in the last 3 days, it has been published. So it will be the new code that will be guiding most professions within the build industry. Because, for example, you'll never hear something like a road failing. Why? Because the professional who is involved is one profession. There are no competing interests within that area. But when you come to the building sector, there are competing interests within the professions. All of you will have to subscribe to the architect, and when a building fails, architect is not answerable because his is to design or hers is to design the space, not the structural strength of the building. So as engineers, we're also taking lead through that code. We are going to take lead in our sector within the building industry.
Are you calling for the concerned people to speed up that process?
It's already up. It has been dispatched. Relevant ministries will have to pick it up and regulate it within their ministries.
Thank you very much.
Engineers power. Power. Engineers power. Power. Butichi power. Power. Butichi, eh? Yeah. Engineers, eh?
Yes.
Engineers, eh?
Yes. Thank you. Asante. So we can. Yes? So we can take a clip ya interview. Tengeneza clip ya kwenda kwa studio kando. Is after your launch.
You want to summarize?
See, you have to go like after that and then say, no? After the launch, so that now I can just speak like the camera like this.
Now,
like after the launch. Sawa. Sawa. Kwa hizi mitandao zingine. Nilikuwa nafanyia mdosi kampeni Ruto kwa hasla kule